Welcome to the Enter the Mind podcast.
The most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind.
Why enter the mind? Because it's that room in your house that's been there all along that you've never gone into.
Well, now it's time to enter with two mind coaches dedicated to self-help and the thriving of all human beings.
I'm Kyra Carlin.
And I'm Robert Nelson.
Welcome to Enter the Mind.
In this week's episode, we'll be talking about how people perceive you and how you perceive others. Before we get to that, how's it going this week, Kyra?
Fantastic week. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Other than the fact that my eyebrows are growing onto my eyelids, I'm doing great. I'm doing so good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I got into a really good flow on, when was it? Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yay.
So I'm kind of observing how that happened and what factors brought that about so that I can reproduce it.
I love that.
That's my life there. All right.
Yay.
So why don't you introduce the topic to us and give us some context, and we'll go from there.
I'd love to. So when I was 21 and I left my old life behind, I didn't quite know it yet, but I had blocked every single person that I had known since I had turned 18. Every single person that I met in that time span, I blocked them. I deleted all my accounts because I didn't want them to see me anymore. I didn't want their energy projecting something onto me, something that I didn't want to be anymore. I didn't want their messages saying, blah, 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 this and that. I didn't want that anymore because that's not who I was, right? So I got the people out. And it's actually, I'm reading a new book on Audible, and it's how to have confidence and power with people. And in it, he says, literally, people will treat you as like you act in front of them and what you allow, etc. And I know that this is so normalized, like people treat you, don't accept less, it's like, those are great. They're great sayings, but does anybody really know like the mechanics of it, right? Say you met a new girl, right? And you're like, yo, what up, bitch? And she's like, she doesn't like being called a bitch, right? So you're like, okay, well, all right, well, I'm never going to call her a bitch again, right? So now you have a perception of her. Now you've created her into a character who does not like to be called bitch, who has, maybe just like a different viewpoint on that. And now she's turned you into the character of, there's that girl who called me a bitch when she first met me, and that's the character that this girl will have for you. And that's the character that you will have for her. Now, in a different sense, it's like, do you ever get like around those people that you're kind of just like, oh, so like when you go to them, like, it's kind of like you already have an attitude, or like you already have like a little bit of something inside of you. And that's how that you're forced to act in front of them, because that's the viewpoint that they have of you. They view you as somebody who's always annoyed, somebody who's always complaining about something, and that's who you will be when you're with them. And vice versa. Say they, love to party. Like they love to fucking party. When you meet them, when you see them, you have turned them now into a character who loves to party. And there's another aspect to it where it's like, you will show up as, you seem. So if you walk into somewhere as a nobody, ain't nobody going to have any other option but to treat you as a nobody. And if you walk in somewhere as somebody important, they will have absolutely no other option but to treat you as somebody who's important. So that's the gist of today.
Gotcha. Yeah, I follow you 100%. I think that the key question, as you said, is the mechanics. What are the mechanics of it? Like, how does this thing work?
Mm.
Um, and I think that's really what we seek out to understand through this podcast. Enter the mind. Let's enter the mind and look around and see exactly like what is causing what, which is causing what.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly how to explain it. I mean, it's almost feels like this sort of uh it's funny, you remember those little like dolls called like the trolls with the
Of
funky
course,
hair? Yeah.
of course.
I'm imagining like this trunk full of them, and it's kind of like your own trunk of like troll dolls. And it's like when you meet somebody, like you pick out one of those dolls as like your identity with that person, whatever.
Mm.
And
Mm.
like that's how you're interacting with that person. But
Mhm.
then um someone else, comes up to you, and that person knows you from 5 years ago, and
Mm.
that person relates to you. They have a different perception of you as this different person. So then you gotta go pick up a different troll out of the trunk, and like that's the persona that you use to interact with that person. But what's remarkable to me is how strong this psychological force is, like this phenomenon, because I have seen it happen over and over. I have seen people like literally flip. I was on a road trip down to Los Angeles one time with my buddy, and we were super tired. He was like low energy, and then all of a sudden he's driving, and he gets a phone call from one of his good friends. And so he answers the phone on Bluetooth as he's driving, and the friend and him, he's like, "What's up, man?" And they start with it. They start with their movie quotes, and they're pretty much just like, before you know it, it's just they're pretty much recreating movie scenes with each other over the phone, and I'm listening the whole time. But what stood out is it flipped because he was like tired. Like he started out like a little bit tired, irritated, maybe like just kind of like very low energy. And literally within seconds, I watched him become a new person. And that transformation, I was like, at the level of psychology, how is this happening? It's because now he's interacting with this person who he's got this whole different persona associated with when he interacts with this other person. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that because I think about it a lot because it's like sometimes I'll meet uh I wouldn't say it's so much. No, it happens with girls too. So it's like if my best friend meets a cool girl and she's hanging out with us and stuff, she knows her on the level of her, but then when she gets with me, her new friend is like, whoa, whoa, because and the same thing happens with me and other people. Like if I meet a guy and then I introduce them to my best friend, he's like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, didn't see this side of me yet, huh? Because, she brings out a side of me that just loves to laugh. But she also brings out a really grounded side of me as well, which is nice, and that's clearly she sees me as somebody who is, smart enough to handle her own shit, which is super nice, So there are some people that you get around, and I feel we've talked about this before, but I feel like it's nice to bring the mechanics into it. And the exact words that he said in the book were just so well put together that like something ticked in my mind to where it's like, oh, like, oh, 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 okay. No wonder, things haven't been entirely going the way that I wanted to. It's because I'm not really showing people who I am. And it can get a little scary to show somebody who you are, because instead of merging any energies or instead of accepting energies, you are pushing out energy. You are holding a space of energy, and that's who you are, and they're pretty much forced to accept it, right? So it's like you meet somebody and you're at a bar or a museum and you meet this super cool woman, and she comes up to you and she's like, man, these fucking paintings suck. Like they fucking suck, man. And I'm like, really? Because I think they're fucking beautiful. Like I'm over here dying because they're so pretty, and so now if you guys exchange phone numbers, you will forever think of that girl in the first terms that you met her as somebody who isn't that quite positive, saying, and you will always have that about her. So that will always come up in the conversation. You will always bring that out in her. So it's good. So somebody meets you, right? And maybe you're a little frivolous. Take me, for example. I'm the goofiest, most joke cracking motherfucker ever. And, most people see me as that. But then it's like when they talk about something that I know something about and I start spitting information, they now have a new perspective of me. And now they don't only see me as a jokester, but they also see me as somebody who's smart because I exerted that energy. So, yeah.
Yeah. So there's certainly multiple, I guess, personas you would say that you can have, and then it'll change with each person that you interact with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if the term self-fulfilling prophecy is sort of a way of explaining the mechanics of it, just in the sense of like that what you think might be true, like comes true because that's what's in your mind or whatever. Or that you'll act in accordance with how you're expected to act, sort of.
Yeah. Because it's like, were you going to say something?
Go ahead.
Okay. So it's like, one of my parents sees me as somebody who's like just like a big ass complainer, and I'm always complaining about something, and I'm always breaking something, and I'm always losing something, and I'm always fucking something up. And I'm wondering, if that comes from like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, oh, well, this is what this person thinks of me. So there's something way back in the back of like humans' minds. It's like, well, this is how I must act. But what if we can change that? Because like, as much as I believe in books, books are great, but also not all of the information is either entirely detailed or it's not entirely new. Maybe other people have read it and, maybe formed it into their own thing, but have they added anything new? Right. So in the book, he says that's how that person will always see you. But if you start exerting yourself in a different way in front of them, then they will have no other option but to treat you as such. Right. But if they don't treat you as such, then what happens? What, do you walk away? Or, it's like.
And I think we can definitely exert influence over our own mind and sort of overcome any ruts or like any roads that have been paved already in our mind. And like, I think we can change that. But one of the theories that I've come up with from just logging my own dreams and just being very aware of my dreams is that throughout the day, I might, let's say, for instance, I go to a self-help seminar, right? And everybody in the audience that I talk to, they kind of see me as like, oh, this up and coming person that's like very successful. And then I leave the seminar, I go home and I go to sleep. And when I go to sleep, I dream of sort of, let's say I was really bad in school. Like the teachers always told me, you're never going to amount to anything, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then imagine, I know, dreadful, right? Imagine then after that seminar, I go home, I go to sleep, and I'm dreaming of being back in high school and those teachers perceiving me the same way, that oh, I'm never going to amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
My theory is that when I wake up that morning, my subconscious mind is affected by those dreams, because in the dreams I was playing a certain role and I was being perceived a certain way in my dreams. So then when I wake up, I've got this weird feeling of oh, why do I feel like so down? Why do I feel like, people aren't rooting for me? Why do I, and I have to really introspect and ask, like, what is going on deep in my mind, deep in there. And the conclusion I've come to many times over by logging my dreams is like, I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, in my dreams, what were the social dynamics of going on in the dream? Who was I being perceived by, and in what ways? How was I being perceived by others in my dream? Because
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff is really subconscious.
Mm-hmm. I completely understand that and agree with that. And I think that the best way to sort of overcome that, because oh my God, when I have dreams about like people from my past who see me as like a different way, I wake up and I'm like, nah. I'm like, nah. So I think that the best way to do that is not only to see like how they were perceiving you in the dream, and this can be in waking life too, if you come across somebody who doesn't, view you as who you are now. I think that the best thing to do would be to analyze how they're perceiving you and for what reasons. And if those reasons aren't a part of you now, then it's like, okay, well, you have no leverage. you have no leverage. So there's absolutely no reason for my psyche to immerse with yours and accept how you're seeing me as truth, because that's not who I am. And I know that you may see me in a specific way, whether dream or reality, but it's not who I am. I don't know. It's pretty much, it's just like, it's not who I am. But there was something that he said in the book, and it was pretty much like, the way that you say things is the way that people have to respond to you. So it's like, if somebody is seeing you in this specific light, it's because there is still a little something that's making them see you in this specific light. And it's like, if you say something rude, if I go up to somebody and I'm like, hey, do you want to buy my course? Right. And I go up and I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is like stupid. Like, what do I look like going up to this woman and asking her, she's probably not going to want it. Right. You elicit that answer out of her by the energy that you hold inside when you come up to her. So now she's going to see you as somebody that she is not interested in. She's not interested in working with you. You're a burden to her. You're wasting her time, so you elicit whatever words or thoughts or feelings or perceptions come out of the other person towards you.
Right. The term I wrote down there was the energy of expectation. Because
let's hear it.
And now you also have me kind of thinking about a phone call I had yesterday. Because remember, I used to have that meal delivery service.
Yeah.
Right, which I've canceled, and it was a great experiment, but it is just, it ran its course, and I was kind of like ready to move on. And so they called me to kind of get some feedback, but also try to persuade me to like sign up again. And what was interesting is how the guy on the phone, he didn't really believe in it himself, and he was just kind of reading his little sales script, and he was kind of like, well, we'd be happy to to give you a discount on the next one if you decide to sign up again, and blah blah. And just from his tonality, and he was taking this position of almost like he didn't feel comfortable kind of like talking to me from the position he was in, which then caused me to feel to take on some sort of role as like reluctant buyer, because he was playing the role of like selling crappy service or whatever, or not like crappy because I like the service, but something he didn't believe in, selling something that he wasn't totally convinced of himself. And so
Yes.
it was just this interplay uh, of what do you call? I think Carl Jung has a word for this, but like just sort of like schemas, or like just some sort of personas. It was like a fight between trolls, like the little troll dolls that you pull out of the trunks, and it's just these personas.
Mhm.
And he and I were not even like present to the conversation. It was just these two troll personas, just like, almost like we were just acting in a movie. Like we knew our roles, and then we were just playing out the little acting, and it was not genuine, and it was like, what's going on?
I love that, because I swear to you, like, as much as like we don't want to admit it, like we are playing roles all day long. And I love it. I love it. I think it's so cool. Like people are like, oh, I could never be an actress. I'm like, are you sure? Because you are one. Like every single day with every single person that you meet. And I love that you explained, like the way that he was coming off, and then, the way that you came off because of it. So it's just a proven fact that, people bring things out of each other. They elicit the answers out of each other. um I'm trying to think of something else that I can relate as well to put on top of that. um it's like, I don't know, like if you're asking like a friend to hang out, and you're like, you call them on the phone, you're like not even sure if like they want me to call, so you're calling, you're like, hey, do you want to hang out? And they're like I'm doing something today, like I'm sorry, but like either way, like you guys both have the roles. It's not as good as yours, but yeah, it's just it's really good. And I feel like there was a thought that came in, because I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, okay, well, what if, you know, somebody comes up to you and they're like, you want to buy the meal plan? And, we'd be happy to give you 1% off. And you're just kind of like you feel that kind of reluctant buyer thing pushing out. But like, what if instead you turned into like, you are like, oh, like I'll buy anyways. I mean, like I could use it again, like he's not really the best salesman, but like, yeah, like I'll buy it. Right. So then does he then turn you into, somebody who just buys things willy-nilly, and he's like, oh, well, I can go back to her again because it don't matter how good my sales thing is, she'll buy it. She'll just fucking buy it, so I guess that explains as well how the different somebody can bring different things out of you and hold you to it.
Yeah, and I think it's true. Like if you do sign up for something, I've even noticed with my own spending, I'll go a long time without spending a lot of money, and then all of a sudden it's like I have to buy this one thing, and then when I buy that, I'm just like way more loose with my purchasing, and I'm like, oh well, I bought this other thing, I'll buy another thing. And it's just strange that it's like, to what extent do we just go through our lives just swapping these different personas on and off, like flowing from one persona into another? And
It's really interesting to think about. It's really cool too, because it's like we're like just here on this earth, souls with bodies and shit on this earth that's just like floating in like legit like space. Like if we go up high enough in our sky, there's space. it then becomes zero gravity. And it's like, just when you think life got like a little bit normal, like, nah, like it is anything but normal. We literally switch personalities throughout our entire days, and switch personas and switch identities due to other people bringing it out of us. It's like when we get in front of Grant Cardone, like, I felt amazing at the 10X Growth Conference. You know why? Because he brings that out. His energy brings that out in us. His energy brings out that professional side of us that we love. You know, it's like if you talk to a bum, you know, maybe he'll bring out a side of you, and it's like a little bit more lenient, a little bit more like, oh, I should enjoy life and not love money so much. You know, it's like it's super cool how this happens.
Yeah, totally. It's going on constantly, 24/7, whether we realize it or not, I think. And
I have one more thing to add, and it's like it's totally true, because it's like I'm trying to think. Okay, so like I like my group of friends, right? So I have a friend named Herman. Love him. When I get around him, I'm like, oh my God, Herman, I love you. Because I love him so fucking much. He's just so funny, low key. And, you know, that's how I react when I see him. And that's probably how he expects me to react. And when I met him, he was very, very grounded, very self-controlled, very poised. He's very together. And that's how I see him. And that's how he appears to me every time I see him. You know, so then another friend, let's see, I have a friend, trying to think of something else. I'll relate it to my work instead. I know we have to wrap up, but it's just so good because it explains it even better. So there's somebody at my job named Yossi. I love him. I go, Yossi, you know, like, hi, Yossi. He's so adorable. And, you know, then there's a woman who works at my job, Rachel. I say, hi, Rachel, you know, like, hi, Rachel, good morning. You know, there's a boy who works at my job named Noah. I go, oh my God, good morning, Noah. How are you? You know, so every time that you speak to somebody, you're switching it up. You know, when I say good morning to my boss, hi, Ron, good morning. How are you? You know, you treat everybody different, and they have that persona when they speak to you as well. So it's like when you're in the workforce and, you know, you're emerging with like all these people, and they're seeing you and you're seeing them, and you're holding everybody to these things. It's really interesting.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you're right. We should give our final thoughts for today's episode and close out for the day. I think that, yeah, kind of like you said, each person we interact with can kind of pull something out of us. I think it's almost like they reach in that the treasure chest and they pull out one of those troll dolls, right? Like one of our 100 and whatever personas that we carry with ourselves, carry around in our trunk. Talk about psychological baggage there. But yeah, it's very true. You know, it's like I remember in high school going to the skate park, and you know, at one point I had a reputation for being very, very skilled skateboarder, and you know, and so some of the kids could easily have said like, you know, oh, Robert's here, come on, let's go sit and watch him, like, or whatever, right? And just when that happens, it's like it's going to trigger something in me to skate a little differently, you know, like constant energetic interdependence between us and others. And yes, we're human species is a very social species, you know, so it's just this very interesting interplay and exchange of energy. And it's very, I just want to have x-ray glasses so that I could kind of see, so that I could see all of the energy shifting and moving. And when two people get together and they have these perceptions of each other, how does that affect the flow of the energy and the bouncing back and forth and the all of this, these things that are invisible to us. We see it on the surface as because they start behaving differently, but what led up to that, what's going on that's invisible in their minds as they're interacting and trying to conform to each other's perception of one another. It's trippy, man, but that's my thought. What about you?
I think my final thoughts would be, that was great. I love it. But I feel like technically sometimes like you can see it. You can't see it physically, but you can imagine it. And I feel like anything that we can imagine is actually quite real. So it's like if you are in front of somebody and they have a specific perception of you, but you take that fucking chance and you put your foot down and, you exert some sort of different energy, you then kind of feel like a space open up and then reconnect between you and that person. And if you kind of focus enough on that energy, you might be able to see it opening and which colors it is, and so I think that that's pretty cool. And I guess for advice for this episode, it would just pretty much be, see yourself as an important person because you are important as fuck. I am, no more important than you. You are no more important than me. We are all equally important. It depends on how important as you see yourself, and it's not like an arrogance thing. It's not, any of that. It's genuinely understanding the gifts that you have and everything that you have to bring to this earth. And you are important as fuck. And you're going to build a fucking empire. So show up like it. I dare you. I dare you to show up as somebody important as fuck for 1 week, maybe 2 if you can do it, but 1 week straight, every day, show up to new people that you meet, show up to other people that you meet, like you're important, and just take note of anything that changes. And those are my final words.
Wow, that was super, super gold. I wrote down what you imagine is real, like you said, because it's so much truth in that. And but what you just said at the end there tops it all.
Yay.
Show up, as if you are important. And wow, yeah, that's the crown on the episode today, I think. So there we go.
Good.
People want to get in touch with you. What is your Instagram handle again?
My Instagram handle is @SoulDesignedFuture. And I just started something new. It's Motivational Pump Up. And it's $42 a month for 12 months. Every single Monday, you get a video of motivational pump ups. So that's brand new. And I'm really excited for it. I can motivate anybody to do anything. It's one of my gifts. So sign up with me @SoulDesignedFuture.
Hell yeah. And my Instagram is Existence First, all one word. So check out the YouTube and the Instagram, and we'll see you guys next week.